And your Lord inspired the bees. Make your homes in the mountains, the trees, and in what people construct. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah bless you guys, may Allah reward you guys. Hope you guys have an amazing day. And a very warm welcome back to another episode of the Arabic in 60 Steps podcast. This is another episode of our wildlife series. And obviously we're going through a number of the stories of various animals in the Qur'an. We are now talking about the bumblebee. And before I read this, I think it would be a good idea to have a recitation of this particular ayah. You know that there's a whole surah named after the bumblebees. It's surah number 16 if you want the number for it. And the ayah which we'll be talking about today is ayah number 68. But rather than letting me recite it, I think it'd be a good idea to use a recitation of it, which I just think is absolutely beautiful. This is kind of one of my go-to recitations on YouTube, so I'll play it for you inshallah, and we'll let the Sheikh Hazza al-Bulushi recite it for you. The beautiful recitation which you just enjoyed was stolen with absolutely no permission whatsoever, so if the podcast goes quiet for a while, then I might be in jail. Whilst I am happy to take one for the team so we can all hear a beautiful recitation, I've mitigated the chances of being charged with this by including a link in the description to the full video which you may enjoy, inshallah. In all seriousness, hopefully I'm not going to prison for sharing that with you. So, we're talking about the bumblebees in this particular episode. And the term that's used is an-nahl, as you would have heard. The term an-nahl is the one that's used in the name of this surah. And even though it's named after the nahl, the term an-nahl only actually occurs once in the entire Qur'an. It's only in this one ayah when it occurs. And in fact, I did have a browse to see if I could find any other words that even used this root. Sometimes we can explore deeper meanings of words in Arabic by exploring a particular root. But I only actually found one other word that's from this same root, which is an ayah in Surah An-Nisa, the surah of the women. When Allah uses the term nihlatan, to mean like graciously or something. It's about giving women their bridal gifts or giving them a meher, and giving it to them graciously, with like not begrudgingly or something. I don't know if there's kind of a connection with bumblebees being gracious and how they glide through the air. But anyway, that's a little bit of speculating on my part. But the point of me saying this is that even the root of that very word is very rare in the Qur'an. And this term an-nahl, it means the bumblebees. It's another collective term, much like the term an-naml. When we learnt the word for ants, obviously the singular of an-naml is namlatun, and I believe that the word for one bumblebee is nahlatun as well. So it actually has the same pattern, but not to be confused with nihlatun, which was the adverb, or nihlatan is the adverb to do something graciously. But anyway, an-nahl. So we move on, inshallah, to talking about this one particular ayah. Obviously, this is the only ayah that we have to work with, so we'll do a kind of a word-for-word walkthrough of it, and then that will be the bulk of the episode of the podcast. Before we get into this nitty-gritty, I will just do a quick announcement. I would like to welcome our sister Majda onto the exclusive program. She has secured her place on the exclusive class, which is really cool. So there are only a few spaces left. So if you want to learn about that and how you can come into the class and be one of only 8 students who's kind of guided and mentored by me personally over the next 3 months, then you can just click the link in the description below or in the show notes or wherever you're listening to this. Or if you have any specific questions about it after you've had a look at the website, you can email me, sam@arabicin60steps.com. So without further ado, let's have a little look at this ayah. So we heard وَأَوْحَى. The wa at the beginning is not part of the verb. The wa is just a way of kind of introducing this sentence. The most common meaning of wa is and, but wa has a number of different uses in Arabic. And in this case, it is it's introducing it does mean and, like you'll see it in the translations as and, but often in English we don't start sentences with the word and. But you can in Arabic, you can in English as well. It's not grammatically wrong to, but we don't see it so much in English, but it is very common in Arabic. So, and awha. Awha is the form for verb. We usually see these in the pattern af'ala. Other examples of this would be like the verb aslama, meaning to become a Muslim, or the verb arada, meaning to want something. But this is the verb awha, meaning to inspire something upon someone else. Its root word is wahi, meaning a revelation. So to reveal upon someone or to inspire upon someone. So وَأَوْحَى رَبُّكَ. So it's Rabbu, who is doing the inspiring. Your Rabb is your Lord. And the cat on the end means yours, right? Rabbuka, and it's a dhamma on there, so Rabbu, because the Rabbu is the subject, is the one actually doing the awha, which is why it takes a dhamma. Wa awha rabbuka, and your Lord inspired ila. So awha ila is the way that verb is used. If you inspire something upon another, then the verb is awha ila somebody, right? You inspire you inspire upon somebody, or inspire to somebody. But who is the one which Rabbuka is inspiring upon? An-Nahli. It's not just one. It's not an-Nahlati. It's the bees in general. It's not one particular bee. There was in the story of the Naml, of the ants, there was kind of one particular ant who was kind of the hero of it all, who spoke, and Sulaiman alayhi salam was pleased with her words. But in this case, it's the bees in general that your Lord has inspired to do what? Anittakhidhi. That, so this is like, so the N is saying that, right? And he inspired your Lord to the bees that they should do something, right? But it's not talking in the third person anymore. This ittakhidhi is a fi'l amr. It's an imperative. Ittakhidhi, and it's in the feminine. Allah is addressing the bumblebees in general, that in a feminine manner. Ittakhidhi, and we've actually seen this verb ittakhadha a number of times, meaning to take something. I'm trying to think of the most recent example that we've used that in, because we have mentioned that in previous episodes of this podcast. The verb ittakhadha, meaning to take something as something, is often used in the Qur'an about how the Christians say that Allah has taken a son. It often uses the term ittakhadha, have taken Isa as a son, and things like that. That's kind of how it's used. It doesn't mean to take as in to take, to own something, or to receive something. We use the form one verb for that. We use the verb akhadha for that. The imperative for that verb is khudh. You often hear it in football, actually. If you ever go to an Arab country and you play football, you'll hear people say khudh, meaning like take it. If you pass the football to someone, khudh. But yeah, it can be used for other things too. But this particular verb, ittakhadha, is for taking something, as in taking somebody as a son, or in this case, taking the mountains as homes. So let's talk about the language for that. So your Lord, and he inspired your Lord to the bumblebees that take min al-jibali buyuta, that you should take from al-jibali. You should take from al-jibal. You should take from the mountains. Jibal is the plural, meaning mountains, and you should take them as buyutan. Buyut is the plural of bait. One bait is a house. Little fact, which I like sharing, about the word bait, is that it also means a verse of poetry. It's exactly the same, just similar to how in English, like the word sea for us means three different things really: the letter C, the sea as in the ocean, and to see something as in the verb. The verb. But even though they have different spellings, right? It doesn't have different spellings in Arabic. It is just the word bait. It means a verse of poetry, and it also means a house. However, it has different plurals depending on which one of those it means. If it means a verse of poetry, it will take the plural abiyatun, and in this case, if it is homes, then it will be buyut. And so yes, so he's saying that. So we'll go from the beginning, kind of a word for word. And he inspired your Lord to the bumblebees that take from the mountains homes. وَمِنَ الشَّجَرِ, and from ash-shajari, and from the trees, وَمِمَّا يَعْرِشُونَ. Mimma is a joining together of min and ma. They get joined together to mean mimma. That's what's going on. So wamin, and from, ma means what, and from what, ya'rishun, from what. The translation will give you what people construct, right? But we'll talk a little bit about the roots of this word ya'rishun, because it'll tell us a little bit more about it. We can't help but notice that it has the same root letters as the word for arsh, meaning a throne. I don't know if we have actually mentioned that in this series, but the reason why I think about it is because in the story of the ants that we talked about, just a couple of ayat further on than the passage that we read, there's a passage about the Queen of Sheba and the hudhud, the Hupi, returns to Sulaiman alayhi salam with a message and talks about the Queen of Sheba. And he says, وَلَهَا عَرْشٌ عَظِيمٌ, and she has a great arsh, she has a great throne. And often we talk about Allah being upon his throne. He's upon the arsh. But yeah, so what does an arsh, what does a throne have in common with this, with what people construct? Well, people construct a throne, don't they, for comfort, for them to sit on. It's very similar to homes that people construct, but it's not just people's homes. I mean, what must be meant by this is that, when people construct homes, or they construct buildings or castles or anything that people construct, bees can often make their homes in them, even if it's not something that people live in necessarily. It could be, it could be anything. It could be the masjid. The masjid could have a beehive in it, couldn't it? Or any building, really. Anything that people build out of wood or brick or anything can end up having a beehive in it. So that would be included in وَمِمَّا يَعْرِشُونَ, and what people, and from what people construct. So yeah, good. So I think that's all of the language. That's all of the language that we covered. So I'll just do a quick little run through of the vocabulary, and then I'll say goodbye, and then I'll talk about what we'll do in the following episode, and that will be the last episode as well. So let's go through it. So wa is and, awha is to inspire or to reveal, rabbuka, your Lord, ila means to. But awha and ila, those are used as kind of one thing, to inspire to something or to inspire upon someone. And nahli is the bumblebees or the bees. An is that, ittakhidhi is a fi'l amr in the feminine, to take. Min al jibali, from the mountains, buyutan, homes or as homes. Wa min al shajari, and from the trees. Wa mimma, and from what, ya'rishun, what they construct. Ya'rishun. Ya'rishun is from the verb, it must be arasha, ya'rishu, and it's una because it's plural on the end. Ya'rishuna, and the ya at the beginning denotes that it's third person masculine. Wa mimma ya'rishun. So that's everything for this episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. I will round off by saying that our next episode will be on the camel, and it will be our last ever episode of this series. Not ever. I'm not retiring for the Arabic in 60 Steps podcast, and unless I get arrested for using Hazar al-Balushi's recording, but inshallah they'll forgive me for that. So that's it for this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
وأوحى ربك إلى النحل أن اتخذي من الجبال بيوتا ومن الشجر ومما يعرشون ثم كلي من كل الثمرات فاسلكي سبل ربك ذللا يخرج من بطونها شراب مختلف ألوانه فيه شفاء للناس إن في ذلك لآية لقوم يتفكرون والله خلقكم ثم يتوفاكم ومنكم من يرد إلى أرذل العمر لكي لا يعلم من بعد علم شيئا إن الله عليم قدير.